What if the only thing holding you back from everything you want is not your circumstances, your past, or even your habits, but your mind? What if the real battle isn't out there in the world, but inside your own thoughts every single day? You see, mental strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, like a muscle, like a skill. And yet, so many people live their entire lives thinking they just aren't strong enough, brave enough, or disciplined enough to change their reality. But that's a lie, a dangerous one. You were never meant to live a life ruled by fear, self-doubt, and distraction. Somewhere along the way, you were taught to give up, not through words, but through comfort, through small compromises, through choosing what feels good now over what matters most later. And now it feels like you can't push through. Like you've tried before, failed, and maybe you just weren't built for this kind of life. But here's the truth. You weren't born weak. You were taught how to be. Think about the people you admire, the ones who seem unshakable, unstoppable, almost superhuman. They don't have more willpower than you. They don't have fewer fears. The difference is simple. They trained themselves to be mentally strong, not overnight, not through luck, through daily choices that rewired their minds and reshaped their lives. And if they could do it, so can you. But let's get real for a moment. Mental strength isn't about being cold, emotionless, or fearless. That's a myth. Real mental strength is knowing your emotions, facing them head on, and still choosing to move forward. It's getting up after failure, staying focused when everything pulls you away, and committing to your growth even when no one is watching. That's the kind of strength that changes lives. That's the kind of strength you can build, starting today. The problem is, most people don't know how. We talk about mindset, motivation, and discipline, but rarely do we break down the actual process of training your mind like you would train your body. You wouldn't expect to run a marathon without preparation, right? So why do we expect ourselves to handle stress, pressure, and setbacks without any mental conditioning? Here's the hard truth. If you don't train your mind, someone else will. Your environment, your distractions, your limiting beliefs, they're all shaping you every single day. Every time you choose comfort over growth, every time you avoid discomfort, every time you tell yourself not today, you reinforce weakness instead of strength. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to break free. But imagine what could happen if you made just one different choice today. One small step toward building the kind of mental toughness that doesn't crack under pressure. Imagine waking up with clarity instead of confusion, moving through your day with purpose instead of procrastination, and ending it with pride instead of regret. That's not fantasy. That's what happens when you start training your mind like an athlete trains for victory. This video isn't just another motivational speech. It's a blueprint, a powerful, research-backed roadmap to help you build unshakable mental strength from the ground up. You'll discover the hidden forces that keep people stuck, the daily rituals used by high performers, and the psychological tools that separate those who quit from those who conquer. You'll learn how to master your thoughts, control your emotions, and take action, even when you don't feel ready. And more importantly, you'll understand why motivation fades, but discipline lasts. Why success isn't about talent, but about mindset. Why the strongest people in the world weren't born that way. They chose every single day to become stronger than yesterday. So ask yourself again, are you ready to stop waiting for confidence, for perfect timing, for the right mood? Are you ready to stop letting your mind hold you back from everything you deserve? Because if you are, then keep listening. This might be the moment that changes everything. Because mental strength isn't a gift, it's a decision. And once you make it, nothing will ever be the same. You've made the decision. You're ready to stop waiting, stop doubting, stop letting your mind hold you back from everything you want. But here's what most people don't realize. Mental strength isn't something that just appears when you wish for it. It's not a feeling. It's not a moment of inspiration. It's built piece by piece through choices that most people are unwilling to make. And the first step is understanding exactly what mental strength really is, and more importantly, what it isn't. Because right now, you might be thinking that being mentally strong means never breaking down, never showing weakness, never struggling. That couldn't be further from the truth. Mental strength isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine when it's not. That's not strength. That's denial. Real mental toughness is knowing how to deal with your emotions, not ignore them. It's learning how to move forward even when you're afraid, even when you feel like quitting, even when everything inside you says stop. Think about the moments in your life when you gave up, when you walked away from a goal, a dream, or a part of yourself that still longs to be fulfilled. Was it because you physically couldn't do it? Or was it because your mind convinced you that the pain wasn't worth it? That's where most people lose the battle. Not because they lack ability, but because they lack mental endurance. They haven't trained themselves to stay in the fight when it gets hard. And that's exactly why so many people start strong and fade fast. Motivation is easy. Inspiration is everywhere. But discipline? That's rare. Because discipline doesn't come with fireworks and applause. It comes with silence, repetition, and discomfort. It comes with doing the work even when no one is watching, even when you don't feel like it, even when every part of you wants to quit. Here's the truth. Mental strength is not inherited. It's not something only a select few are born with. It's a skill, a habit, a lifestyle. And the best part, it can be trained. Just like lifting weights builds muscle, facing challenges head-on builds resilience. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, courage over fear, action over avoidance, you're strengthening the muscle of your mind. And over time, those small choices compound into unstoppable momentum. But there's a catch. Training your mind is uncomfortable. It requires you to face parts of yourself you'd rather avoid. Self-doubt, fear of failure, the voice that tells you you're not enough. That's why most people never truly become mentally strong. Not because they can't, but because they won't. They refuse to sit in the discomfort long enough for growth to happen. They want results without resistance, success without struggle, strength without sweat. Let me ask you this. How bad do you want it? Are you willing to feel the fear and take the next step anyway? Are you willing to sit in the quiet, do the work, and trust the process even when progress feels slow? Because that's where real change happens. That's where champions are made, not in the spotlight, but in the moments no one sees. And if you're serious about building unbreakable mental strength, then you need to understand one more thing. Your brain is not your enemy. It's just misunderstood. It's wired for survival, not success. It will always push you toward comfort, away from pain, even if that pain leads to growth. So instead of fighting your mind, learn how to work with it, understand its patterns, recognize its tricks, and most importantly, train it to respond differently to challenge. Because here's the secret. Mental strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting up faster each time you do. It's about refusing to stay down even when everything inside you wants to give up. It's about choosing who you want to become and refusing to settle for anything less. So if you're ready to stop making excuses and start making progress, keep listening. Because what comes next will show you exactly how to build the kind of mental toughness that changes lives, the kind that turns dreams into reality, setbacks into comebacks, and ordinary people into unstoppable forces. This is your moment. Stay focused. Keep going. The strongest version of yourself is waiting on the other side of your limits. You now understand that mental strength is not about being fearless, flawless, or unbreakable. It's about choosing to move forward even when you're afraid, even when you feel broken, even when the path ahead is unclear. But knowing this truth is only the beginning. The real question is, why do so many people still struggle to take consistent action? Why do we keep falling into the same patterns of self-doubt, procrastination, and fear? The answer lies in a single powerful force, your mind's natural instinct to protect you from pain. And while that may sound like a good thing, it's actually what keeps most people stuck in a cycle of mediocrity. Because here's the reality. Growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from discomfort. It comes from pushing past the voice inside you that says, I can't, not today, or maybe tomorrow. That voice isn't trying to hurt you. It's just doing its job. Your brain is wired to avoid pain, conserve energy, and seek immediate rewards. But if you let it run the show, you'll never reach your true potential. This is the moment where everything changes. This is where you stop letting your mind control you and start learning how to control your mind. Because the truth is, every time you've ever failed to follow through on a goal, it wasn't because you lacked talent or intelligence. It was because you lacked awareness. Awareness of how your mind works, what triggers your self-sabotage, and what you can do to rewire your thinking for long-term success. Let's get something straight. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are simply fighting against millions of years of evolution that have conditioned your brain to resist change. Your brain doesn't care about your dreams. It doesn't care about your goals. It only cares about survival. So when you try to push yourself beyond your current limits, your brain interprets that as a threat. And what does it do? It gives you doubt, fear, fatigue, excuses, anything to make you stop and return to safety. But here's the breakthrough. You don't have to be a prisoner of your biology. You can train your brain to respond differently, to see discomfort as fuel instead of danger, to view effort as progress instead of punishment, to embrace challenge as an opportunity instead of a threat. This is the essence of mental strength, not resisting discomfort, but leaning into it with purpose and intention. Think about the most successful people in the world. Do you think they don't feel fear? Do you think they never want to quit? Of course they do. The difference is they've trained themselves to act despite those feelings. They've built what psychologists call emotional resilience, the ability to stay focused and committed in the face of adversity. And guess what? You can build it too. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, courage over comfort, and action over avoidance, you're strengthening your mental muscle. Every time you sit down to work when you don't feel like it, speak up when you want to stay silent, or push yourself when you want to give up, you're proving to yourself that you are capable of more than you think. And that's how transformation happens. Not in big dramatic moments, but in the small daily choices that most people are unwilling to make. It's in the early mornings when you wake up before your body is ready. It's in the quiet moments when you say no to distractions and yes to your future. It's in the battles you fight alone without applause or recognition, simply because you know who you're becoming is worth the struggle. So ask yourself, what are you willing to endure today for the life you want tomorrow? Are you willing to feel uncomfortable? To sit with uncertainty? To fail again and again until you finally succeed? Because that's the price of mental strength. Not money, not luck, not talent, just relentless consistency in the face of resistance. And once you understand that, something shifts. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop making excuses. You stop blaming your circumstances. Instead, you start taking full responsibility for your mindset, your actions, and your results. Because you realize that no one else is going to build your mental strength for you. No app, no quote, no video. Only you can decide to become someone who doesn't quit. Because mental toughness isn't about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's about showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it. Even when no one is watching, even when progress feels slow. That's where greatness is built. That's where legends are made. And if you're willing to keep going, keep growing, and keep training your mind like the strongest version of yourself, then you're already on the path. Keep listening, keep learning, because the next part will reveal the exact rituals, habits, and strategies used by the most mentally strong people on earth. And they didn't get there by accident. They got there by design. You now understand that mental strength is not about being fearless or flawless. It's about taking action despite fear, despite doubt, despite the constant pull to stay where it's comfortable. You've learned that your mind will always try to protect you from pain, even if that pain leads to growth. And you've accepted that real transformation doesn't happen in grand moments. It happens in the small daily choices most people are unwilling to make. But here's the next level of truth. Knowing all this means nothing if you don't take action. Because knowledge without execution is just entertainment. And if you're serious about building unbreakable mental toughness, then you need more than inspiration. You need a system, a set of daily rituals that rewire your brain, strengthen your willpower, and condition your mindset for long-term success. Because let's be honest, motivation fades. It always does. One day you feel unstoppable, ready to conquer the world. The next you can barely get out of bed. That's why relying on how you feel is a trap. Real mental strength comes from discipline, not emotion. From structure, not spontaneity. From consistency, not intensity. So what do the mentally strongest people in the world do differently? They don't wait for the perfect moment. They create habits that force them into action every single day. They train their minds like athletes train their bodies, with purpose, precision, and persistence. And the best part? These habits aren't complicated. In fact, they're surprisingly simple. But they require one thing most people refuse to give: commitment. Let's start with the foundation, morning routines. Not because they magically transform your life overnight, but because they set the tone for everything else. Most people wake up already behind, scrolling through distractions, checking messages, letting their minds get hijacked before they even step out of bed. But mentally strong people know this. The first hour of your day determines the direction of the rest. So instead of reacting to the world, they lead with intention. Cold showers, breathing exercises, movement, journaling, meditation. These aren't just trendy habits. They're forms of mental resistance training. Each one teaches your brain that discomfort is not the enemy, it's the gym. Then there's the power of delayed gratification. Most people live their lives chasing instant pleasure, social media validation, junk food, binge watching, endless distractions. But mentally strong people understand the law of compounding effort. They know that true success isn't built in a day. It's built in thousands of small moments where they choose long-term rewards over short-term comfort. They resist the urge to check their phone first thing in the morning. They say no to distractions when focus is required. They prioritize progress over convenience, and over time, those choices separate them from everyone else. Another key ritual? Accountability. Not the kind that comes from someone else telling you what to do, but the kind that comes from holding yourself responsible for your own growth. Mentally strong people write down their goals. They track their progress. They reflect on their actions, not because they enjoy paperwork, but because they know that what gets measured gets improved. And when they fall short, they don't make excuses. They adjust, adapt, and keep moving forward. And perhaps the most overlooked habit of all, emotional regulation. Most people let their emotions control their decisions. When they feel anxious, they avoid. When they feel overwhelmed, they procrastinate. Or when they feel frustrated, they quit. But mentally strong people have trained themselves to respond differently. They pause before reacting. They breathe before speaking. They observe their thoughts instead of being controlled by them. This is the ultimate form of self-mastery, realizing that you are not your emotions, but the one watching them. These aren't just strategies. They're daily acts of defiance against weakness. Every time you stick to your routine, resist distraction, delay gratification, hold yourself accountable, and regulate your emotions, you're proving to yourself that you are capable of more than you think. And that proof builds momentum. It builds confidence. It builds identity. Because mental strength isn't something you achieve. It's something you embody. It's not a destination. It's a way of living. And once you start making these choices consistently, something powerful happens. You begin to see yourself differently. You stop seeing obstacles as roadblocks and start seeing them as opportunities. You stop fearing failure and start embracing it as feedback. You stop waiting for permission and start taking ownership of your life. This is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Not talent, not luck, not circumstance. Just the willingness to show up, do the work, and train your mind like an elite athlete trains their body. So ask yourself, are you willing to commit to this? Are you willing to build a life where you don't rely on motivation, but create discipline? Where you don't run from discomfort, but seek it out as fuel? Where you don't wait for change, but become the force of change? Because if you are, then keep listening. Because what comes next will reveal how to break free from the chains of self-doubt and truly master your mind. And once you do, there will be no stopping you. You've built the foundation. You understand that mental strength isn't about being fearless. It's about acting in spite of fear. You've accepted that your mind will always try to protect you from pain, even when that pain leads to progress. And you've begun shaping your daily rituals, not because they're easy, but because they force you to grow stronger every single day. But here's the next level of truth. Discipline fades if it's not fueled by purpose. Motivation dies if it's not grounded in identity. And all the habits in the world won't matter if you don't truly believe that you are someone who doesn't quit. Because let's be honest, most people fail not because they lack knowledge, not because they lack ability, but because they lack belief. Not belief in their goals, not belief in their dreams, but belief in themselves. They still carry the weight of past failures, the voice of someone who told them they weren't good enough, the fear that maybe they just weren't built for this kind of life. That voice is loud. It shows up when you try something new. It whispers when you face resistance. It screams when you feel like giving up. But here's what you must understand. That voice is not you. It's the echo of every time you gave in instead of pushing forward. Every time you chose comfort over growth. Every time you convinced yourself that maybe tomorrow would be better and then never showed up. But you can silence that voice. Not by waiting for confidence to magically appear. Not by hoping one day you'll feel ready. You silence it by proving to yourself again and again that you are capable of more than you think. That every time you follow through, even when you don't want to, you reinforce a new identity. One where quitting is not an option. One where struggle is not failure, but confirmation that you're growing. This is the difference between those who stay stuck and those who break through. Not talent, not luck, identity. Because once you start seeing yourself as someone who doesn't quit, everything changes. Your actions align with that belief. Your choices reflect that truth. Your mindset shifts from, I hope I can, to I will. Think about the people you admire, the ones who seem unshakable, unstoppable, almost superhuman. They didn't become that way overnight. They became that way because at some point they made a decision, a silent internal commitment that changed everything. They decided that no matter how hard it got, they wouldn't stop. No matter how long it took, they wouldn't give up. No matter how many times they failed, they wouldn't quit. And that's the exact same decision you have to make. Not tomorrow, not when things get easier. Now, in this moment, because the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the version of yourself that still hesitates, still doubts, still waits. You have to become someone who doesn't wait for permission, someone who doesn't need motivation to take action, someone who follows through, not because it feels good, but because it's who you are. Because here's the truth. Discipline fades when it's not tied to identity. But identity becomes unbreakable when it's reinforced by action. Every time you choose to do the hard thing, you prove to yourself that you are becoming someone different, someone stronger, someone who doesn't make excuses, someone who doesn't look for shortcuts, someone who doesn't give up. And when you embody that identity, something powerful happens. The fear doesn't disappear, but it loses its grip on you. The discomfort doesn't vanish, but you no longer run from it. The doubt doesn't go away, but you stop listening to it. Because now you know who you are and you know what you're capable of. And no voice, not even your own, can convince you otherwise. So ask yourself, who are you becoming? Are you building the identity of someone who gives up easily? Or are you building the identity of someone who keeps going, no matter what? Your answer determines your future, because identity shapes behavior. Behavior shapes results, and results shape your entire life. So make the choice right now. Decide that you are not the person who walks away. You're not the person who makes excuses. You are not the person who waits for perfect timing. You are the person who takes action, who pushes through, who builds strength through struggle, who chooses growth over comfort, who doesn't quit no matter what. Because mental toughness isn't about being strong all the time. It's about showing up even when you're weak. It's about doing the work even when you don't feel like it. It's about staying committed even when you want to walk away. And if you keep making that choice, one day you won't just be training yourself to be mentally strong. You will be. You've made the decision. You've chosen to become someone who doesn't quit, someone who pushes forward even when fear shows up, even when motivation fades, even when the path is unclear. You've accepted that mental strength isn't about being fearless. It's about acting in spite of fear. And you've started building the habits, the discipline, and most importantly, the identity of someone who follows through. But here's what no one tells you. The moment you commit to this path, resistance will rise. Not just from the outside world, but from within. Because your mind still remembers what it was like to stay small, to play safe, to avoid pain, and it will fight you every step of the way. It will try to convince you that maybe you're pushing too hard, that maybe rest is better than growth, that maybe you don't need to change after all. It will whisper doubt into your thoughts when you're tired. It will flood you with excuses when you sit down to work. It will pull you toward distraction. The second things get difficult. This is the moment where most people fall off the path. Not because they lacked ability, not because they weren't strong enough, but because they didn't understand how to handle the war inside their own minds. Because here's the truth. Your thoughts are not always your allies. Some of them are outdated. Some are based on past failures, old fears, or limiting beliefs that no longer serve you. And if you let them run the show, they will keep you stuck in a cycle of self-doubt, hesitation, and inaction. So how do you break free? By learning to master your mind, not by silencing your thoughts, but by changing your relationship with them. Think of your mind like a radio station. It's constantly broadcasting messages, some helpful, some harmful, most just noise. But here's the key. You don't have to listen to everything it says. You don't have to believe every thought that enters your head. You can choose which ones to pay attention to, which ones to act on, which ones to let go. That's the essence of mental mastery, realizing that you are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. And once you make that shift, once you stop identifying with every negative message your brain throws at you, something powerful happens. You begin to take control. You start making decisions based on who you want to become, not on how you feel in the moment. You stop letting your emotions dictate your actions. You stop waiting for confidence. You stop waiting for certainty. You stop waiting for permission. You simply act. Because you now understand that discipline beats emotion, that consistency beats intensity, that identity beats inspiration. And that changes everything, because here's the next level of truth. Mental strength isn't built in isolation. It's tested in real life, in moments of pressure, in moments of failure, in moments where you have to decide whether you're going to keep going or give up. And those moments will come. They always do. You'll face setbacks. You'll face criticism. You'll face days where nothing seems to go right and you question why you even started. That's not a sign that you're failing. That's a sign that you're growing. Because strength isn't built in comfort. It's forged in adversity. Every time you push through, you prove to yourself that you are becoming someone different, someone unshakable, someone who doesn't crack under pressure, someone who doesn't run from struggle, someone who walks straight into it, comes out stronger. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. The louder your inner voice of courage becomes, the weaker the voice of doubt becomes. Because mental toughness isn't something you either have or you don't. It's something you build. Brick by brick, choice by choice, moment by moment. So ask yourself, what kind of mind do you want to build? One that gives in easily, or one that refuses to back down? One that listens to fear, or one that learns to move forward in spite of it? Because the power lies in your hands. Every day, every hour, every minute, you can choose to react to your thoughts, or you can choose to lead them. You can choose to be ruled by your emotions, or you can choose to master them. You can choose to wait until you feel ready, or you can choose to act now, even when you don't. And every time you make the harder choice, you reinforce who you are becoming, not just as a person, but as a force. Because mental strength isn't about surviving. It's about thriving. It's about showing up fully, even when it hurts. It's about doing the work, even when no one is watching. It's about refusing to quit, not because you never feel like giving up, but because you know who you are. And if you keep choosing that version of yourself, the one that doesn't back down, the one that keeps going, the one that builds strength through struggle, then there will be no stopping you. Because you won't just be training yourself to be mentally strong. You will be. You now understand that mental strength is not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about making the moment perfect through action. You've accepted that your mind will always try to pull you back toward comfort, but that real growth happens in the space where most people quit. You've built habits, strengthened your identity, and learned how to separate yourself from the thoughts that once held you captive. But here's the final truth that separates those who truly transform their lives from those who simply try. There comes a moment, a single defining moment, not dramatic, not flashy, just quiet. And in that moment, everything changes. It's not the moment you feel inspired. It's not the moment you get external validation or someone tells you you can. Or it's the moment you decide, without needing proof, without needing permission, that you are done with excuses, done with hesitation, done with waiting. That moment might come after years of self-doubt, after countless failures, after waking up one morning and realizing that if you keep living the same way, nothing will ever change. That moment might come after a loss, a rejection, a setback so painful that something inside you shifts. Not anger, not frustration, something deeper, a quiet, unshakable determination. Because transformation doesn't always begin with motivation. Sometimes it begins with exhaustion. Exhaustion from fighting yourself, from trying to force change without direction, from chasing results without building systems, from wanting more without doing what it takes. And when that moment arrives, when you finally say enough, everything aligns. You stop looking for shortcuts. You stop blaming your circumstances. You stop waiting for confidence. You stop making excuses. You just start. You wake up earlier than before, not because you feel like it, but because you know it matters. You sit down to work even when you don't feel inspired. You push through the workout even when your body resists. You speak up even when fear tries to silence you. You take the risk even when uncertainty looms, and every time you do, you prove to yourself that you are becoming someone different, someone stronger, someone who no longer needs motivation to act, only discipline to follow through. Because here's the secret that no one talks about. The strongest people in the world weren't born that way. They didn't suddenly become unstoppable overnight. They simply made one decision at some point that changed everything. They decided that no matter how hard it got, they wouldn't quit. No matter how long it took, they wouldn't give up. Or no matter how many times they failed, they wouldn't stop. And that decision became their foundation. So ask yourself, when will your moment be? Will it be today? Will it be right now? As you listen to these words, feeling something shift deep inside. Will this be the moment you stop waiting, stop hesitating, stop convincing yourself that tomorrow will be different? Or will you wait for another day, another sign, another reason to begin? Because here's the reality. Tomorrow never comes the way you expect. Motivation fades. Opportunities disappear. Time moves forward whether you act or not. But if you choose now, if you choose this moment to commit fully, then something irreversible begins. You start building momentum. One small win leads to another. One disciplined choice builds confidence. One refusal to quit reinforces your identity. And slowly, steadily, you become someone who doesn't need encouragement to move forward because you are the source of your own strength. That's the power of a single decision, not a grand gesture, not a life-altering event, just a quiet internal agreement with yourself that you are done with excuses, done with giving in, done with letting fear dictate your choices. From this moment on, you show up. Even when you don't feel like it, you follow through. Even when it's hard, you keep going. Even when progress feels slow, because you now understand that mental strength isn't a destination. It's a daily choice, a daily commitment, a daily battle against the part of you that still wants to play small. And every time you choose to fight, you grow stronger. So ask yourself again, what kind of person do you want to become? The one who keeps waiting, or the one who starts now? The one who lets fear control them, or the one who walks straight into it? The one who hopes for change, or the one who becomes the force of change? Because the answer determines everything. And if you're ready, if you're truly ready, then make the decision right now. Start, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, now. Because mental strength isn't something you hope for, it's something you build, one choice at a time. And this is where it begins. You made the decision. You chose to begin, not when you felt ready, but right now, in this moment. You stopped waiting for motivation, for perfect timing, for external validation. You started building habits, reinforcing discipline, and shaping a new identity. You learned how to separate yourself from your thoughts, how to move forward in spite of fear, and how to turn small daily choices into unstoppable momentum. But here's what happens next. The real test begins. Because starting is easy. Anyone can feel inspired for a day or two. Anyone can wake up full of energy and commit to change. But what separates those who truly transform their lives from those who simply try is what they do when the initial excitement fades, when the novelty wears off, when the grind sets in and progress feels slow. That's when most people fall back into old patterns. They lose steam. They doubt themselves again. They wonder if it was all just another attempt that will end in disappointment. And then, one day, they realize they've slipped back into the same cycle they were trying to break free from. But not you, because you now understand that mental strength isn't built in the moments when everything feels easy. It's built in the moments when everything feels hard, when no one is watching, when no one is cheering, when no one even knows what you're going through. It's built in the silent battles you fight every single day. The battle to get up when you don't feel like it, to keep going when you want to quit, to stay focused when distraction calls your name. And that's where you must dig deeper. Because here's the truth. Growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from resistance, from pushing past the point where your mind says stop and your body says no more. It comes from showing up when you don't feel like it, doing the work when you don't feel inspired, making the choice to continue even when you're tired, frustrated, or unsure. That's where the real transformation happens. Think about the strongest people you know, not just in public life, but in your own world. The ones who seem unshakable, who don't break under pressure, who don't run from struggle, but walk straight into it. What makes them different isn't talent or luck. It's consistency. It's the willingness to keep going when most would give up. They didn't become strong because everything went perfectly. They became strong because they refused to stop, even when things fell apart. So ask yourself, what are you willing to endure today for the life you want tomorrow? Are you willing to feel discomfort? To sit with uncertainty, to fail again and again until you finally succeed, because that's the price of real mental toughness. Not money, not connections, not talent, just relentless, unwavering consistency in the face of resistance. Once you accept that, something powerful happens. You stop looking for shortcuts. You stop chasing quick fixes. You stop waiting for the perfect moment because you realize that the only way forward is through the fear, through the doubt, through the pain, through the days when nothing feels like it's working. Because you now understand that every time you push through, you're building something unbreakable inside of you. Something that no setback can destroy. No failure can erase. No obstacle can stop. You're building resilience. You're building grit. You're building the kind of strength that changes lives. So don't let go now. Don't step back when the road gets harder. Don't abandon your commitment just because the journey is longer than you expected. Because the strongest version of yourself is waiting on the other side of your limits. And the only thing standing between you and that version is your willingness to keep going. Or even when it hurts, even when you don't see results yet, even when no one else believes in you. Keep going, because this is how legends are made. Not through grand gestures, but through quiet persistence. Not through perfect conditions, but through relentless effort. Not through ease, but through endurance. And if you keep choosing to show up, not just once, but every single day, then one day you'll look back and realize something incredible. You won't just be training yourself to be mentally strong. You will be unshakable, unstoppable, unapologetically you.